Big win last weekend, Saturday night, another top 5 matchup against the Indiana Hoosiers. I was on campus for the game. Campus was buzzing, even though, no one's used to Indiana being a top 5 team. But, the juice was still there. And I thought that was important for the juice to still be there. Even though I don't know about you, Garris, and I know we talked about it on the show, but a lot of the Ohio State fans around me, they didn't really seem to think IU was too big of a threat. But it was good to see the juice there. Ohio State gets a solid win, 38-15. Give me some of your overall thoughts on how this game was played.
I mean, the game went how I thought it would. Like I said before, all last week, whether it be turnovers or for whatever reason, I thought it was going to be a slow start to the game because that just seems to, be par for course for this team. But it looked like the Penn State game to me, where, it looked close in the first half, but Ohio State was clearly in command of the game. You have IU go down for that, on their first drive, they score a touchdown. After that, it was nothing. And honestly, on that first drive, it looked like Jim Knowles baited them. He didn't blitz for that first drive. He sent 4, played a lot of man, a lot of tight coverage on the outside on the wide receivers, turned into a few PIs. The first one was kind of questionable, but after that, man, he unloaded. He did.
Yeah.
And Indiana had some success running the ball to an extent, but I feel sometimes people forget. Though you see you can see 6 yards per carry, you can see 4 yards per carry. Yeah, but what happens when you get that 2-yarder, that 1-yarder, that 3-yarder? Now you're in 2nd and 8. Now you're in 3rd and 7.
Yeah,
and that's what happened to Indiana. I was very impressed with our defense. I was very impressed with the play calling. It's really rare that we get to see back-to-back sacks. That happened. Cody Simon, my goodness, play like a man possessed.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked it.
Yeah, and early on, and we talked about it even on the show about how we knew Ohio State they were going to start. They're going to start slow, specifically on the defensive end. I mean, IU coming off the bye week, Ohio State's defense always struggled there on that first drive. It's been like that every game, no matter who they've played. And I didn't think this was going to be any different. And again, IU, I still think Indiana's a pretty good team. Nothing that I saw on Saturday changes that. Now, I never thought they were elite. I never thought this game was going to be, all that close.
Right.
Once the first half was over, I was a little bit surprised to see kind of IU special teams blunders really kind of put them in a hole. The punt return from Caleb Downs, the issues with the snap on a punt. Like there were all kinds of problems on the special teams front that I didn't necessarily expect to see from them. And on the flip side, Ohio State special teams after earlier in the year, they've been fantastic. So I think that's a big positive for this game as well. I mean, Downs gets hit the first punt return for an Ohio State player since 2014, since Jalen Marshall against Indiana. So that if
Ted Ginn called it in the big noon kickoff too before the game.
Yeah. And it's good. It's good to see them put Downs back there because he had success doing that. Against a lot of the teams in the SEC there at Alabama. I mean, he was a great special teams player too. But after that defense allowed that first drive touchdown, they shut him down. I mean, Indiana, Curtis Rourke was 8 of 18 for 68 yards. That's pretty darn good. They only allowed IU, they had 40 carries for 85 yards. That's 2.1 yards per carry. And then they had that last, touchdown there at the end when it didn't really mean a whole lot. So I thought the defense played really good. There were those concerning moments early. I know you mentioned the penalty, the Igbinosun penalty, which, again, he's good for at least one of those a game. So we knew that was going to happen. But, you also mentioned the sacks. I think that's an important part of this game. You mentioned Cody Simon. He was an absolute beast. I think this is a good – it's more than good. It's a great performance to have at home in front of your fans during a top 5 matchup doing exactly what you should.
Exactly. And I'm not to say that you meant to do this, but I mean, I've seen a lot of people, they said that all right, when we say blunders, I think they only had one blunder. I'm not gonna call Caleb Downs' kick return a blunder. Like a lot of people sat there and like kind of poo-pooed it as if that was Indiana's fault. No, he made someone miss. The funny part about it, he jogged it. That was the
I
funniest
wouldn't
part.
I wouldn't call it a blunder, no, but I mean it's something else that went wrong on special teams.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't think you meant to say that, like, or you meant it in that fashion, as like a lot of other people did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, and also I do want to point this out. You didn't hear Burke's name all game. When you don't hear a corner's name all game, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
That
unless
is
he's
a
getting
good
interceptions.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's good not to hear his name. And even Igbenogson, after those 2 penalties, he played really well. Really well. I mean, there's a reason why Warwick had 68 passing yards.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then also,
and we talked about it before the game, how the front four,
Mhm.
you specifically mentioned how the front four needed to get some pressure. And I talked about my
Mhm.
guy, Tyleek. I thought he played really well,
Oh, yeah.
getting pressure up the middle. Again, not allowing Rourke to really step into a lot of those throws. So, as much as we're praising the second, I think the front door deserves a shout out. Front four deserves a shout out too.
Exactly. And I also want to point this out because when we talk about shutting down their offense, so on the first drive of the game, Indiana got 70 yards. On the last drive of the game, they got 75. That's a total of 145.
Yeah.
They finished with 153.
Yep.
I mean, it was a masterclass by Jim Knowles in that defense. To go to the other side on offense, I thought that, like, just starting with the O-line, I didn't think they played bad. I thought that on in terms of the run game, they could have played much better. But I did think that when we need to run the ball outside of that 4th and 1, and I never again want to see us go into shotgun on the 1-yard line. I never again want to. All I want to see is Will Howard's big behind, go under center, and run it in.
Yeah.
There's just
Tush
no reason
push.
to be in
I
shotgun.
agree.
Yeah, there's just no reason
I
to be in
agree with
shotgun.
that.
And but I thought in pass protection, that offensive line played well. And who would have thunk the 2 guys that had the highest PFS scores this week? So Austin,
Yep.
and it was Hinsman. They had
Carson
the
Hinsman.
2 highest grades this week on our O line. So that gave me a lot of hope going into this week, into this game this Saturday, playing against one of the better defensive lines. What do you think about the O line?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned how you didn't think that Arizona did well or as well in the run game.
Mhm.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit there. I'm going to give the offensive line its total flowers because of the week
Okay.
that they had, losing their leader as center, Seth McLaughlin, for the year. Again, second guy to go down with a season-ending injury. And even though they reshuffled it to a point where they had a center who had started all 12 games for them last year move back to that spot, and they had a guy in Austin Searveld who had at least played, earlier in the year, so he at least had some experience. But, Ohio State still ran the ball 25 times for 115 yards. Yeah, that's only 4 yards to carry, but they had 2 touchdowns in there as well. And quite frankly, they probably could have run the ball a little bit more if they wanted to. It was clear they wanted to get Will Howard in a rhythm early. I mean, you don't see him throw 26 passes very often. He was 22, 26, 201, those 2 touchdowns. And that interception was not his fault. Jelani kind of he dropped that ball. It hit his hands.
That was a really good pass.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough catch. It was a little bit behind him, but that's because Howard threw it where the defender wasn't going to be. So I thought Will, again, played fantastic. And the offensive line in general, like you said, they did do really well in pass pro. And that's encouraging coming up in a game against another team that's got a really solid defensive line.
Yeah.
So, for as much flack as I've given Justin Fry over the last couple years for his
me
both
too.
on the field work, for his on the field work and his recruiting, I got to give him some credit because he's done a phenomenal job here in these last few weeks.
Okay, so this is the reason why I made those comments about the run game. Yeah, Judkins at 2.6. Jeremiah had the 1 for 12. Now Travion had 9 for 68, but that was a 39-yarder that came at the end of the game. But that's why I said, like, I do believe there were times in the game when we ran the ball effectively when we needed to do it. And granted, man, we only had 55 plays this game. Yeah, we only had 55 plays.
Yeah.
So And yeah, I think we could have ran the ball more. We could have. But I mean,
And I
Quinshon
think
getting 14 carries, that's for par. He's only gone over 15 carries once this year. Travion having 9, he averages about 11 or 12 a game.
Yep. Well, and you talk about that run late. I think that is a bit of a product of Ohio State wearing the front of IU down. They're at the end of
Yes.
the game. They
Mhm.
know if they don't stop them here, even if they do stop them, it might be, it's still technically a 2-score game at that
Yeah.
point, but just one last shot to the jaw for the Ohio State
Mhm.
offensive line, and that, it's strange. I'm interested to hear your take on this. A lot of talk um, back in Indiana about that last touchdown that Will Howard decided to go ahead
Yeah.
and run it in after Trevion slid. What did you think of that whole ordeal?
Don't give a damn. Don't give a
Yeah,
damn.
yeah,
Look, at the beginning of the season, and it was really refreshing to hear Ryan Day say this. At the beginning of the season, I said I wanted Ohio State to leave, no doubt this year, no doubt. And I think that when Ryan Day did that, don't get me wrong, Travion, it was smart of you. It was, and he's a really nice guy, and I understand it. Don't care. I love the
yeah.
fact that Ryan Day did that because I think that's a mindset thing. It's a mindset.
I think it's that. I thought it was really strange that Henderson slid and then Will Howard went in there anyway. But I think what
Mhm.
happened was Day went up to him and was like, "Hey, we're not stopping. We heard
Yeah.
what Signetti said when he got hired. We heard that he said Ohio State sucks. We're not going to let that stand here. So
Yep.
I don't mind it one bit. Goes to the old adage: if you don't want him to score, stop him.
Yeah.
So I don't really have that big of an issue with it. It
Mhm.
seems like all the IU fans were kind of up in arms based on what I saw, on Twitter and back home, some of the local sports radio
Mhm.
talk. So
Oh,
I
I saw
again,
it.
yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But